Peace and love, beautiful people. It is Courtney, and it's about 5:27. I decided to come out and, commune with the night sky for a little bit. I've been making videos all day to share. I've been in the spirit of sharing, and I just can't seem to get it right. So I'm going to commit to this one, whatever it turns out to be. I woke up yesterday morning and my journal post had my head in a space thinking on that spectrum of mental health that easily transitions anxiety into depression. Another topic that was heavy in my head was the interdimensional nature of experiences or reality. And again, I've been heavy on wanting to communicate, knowing that it's something that I should communicate, and not having built the places to, or the relationships to be able to communicate effectively. All of my new insights and experiences, and I haven't yet built the confidence to be able to do so. So this video, it will be an update, surely, to the Tell Two Fishies channel, which is probably where you're watching this video. So thank you. But this is the YouTube channel that I've created to document and share what has been my awakening experience, my coming to life to myself. So yes, I guess I'll quickly go over my morning journaling, which were those topics that I just mentioned, before I jump into what was on my mind this morning, this rising. So if you've had the chance to watch the videos that I've posted prior to this one, you will kind of know my story for the past year. My awakening was kind of abrupt because I didn't recognize the nudges for what they were. And I kind of went from a world that was, fairies and magical force to, a very hard grounding into a reality that I had ignored for a very long time. And what has happened since this grounding has been what I can now summarize as a spectrum of anxiety and depression. And again, it's important that I share not only to document my journey and to serve as a therapy, a talk therapy for me, but again, as a person who recognizes the influence that I've had on other people and how much I have played into interdependent relationships, I do owe those who are coming behind me insight, as well as, a path, forward, solutions. So the spectrum of anxiety and depression. So I've realized through, my time being apart, I have taken this healing seriously, because I literally see the world that I dream of forming around me, and I'm realizing that it's my social emotional skills that are hindering me being viable in it. So anxiety is like a panic state of mind where you are overburdened. You have insistent worry about, what's next on the to-do list, what's coming up in the future, how you're going to get there. This is a common place that many of us find ourselves when we have, bills to pay, children to raise. I found myself in this place of, kind of being on autopilot that needed to be broken. And me not being able to recognize experiences, I kind of, I would heat it, but I didn't heat it enough. Just, you don't know how much to tweak a thing. The only way that you are learning this through your experiences, even though you may learn and take the inspiration and cues from the external world, it still is based on your level of, knowing how to enact change in your own life. So realizing that, this autopilot life that I was caught in was creating, again, more anxiety, more things to worry about, more things to tend to, was a hard reality when I thought that I was just, on the path to being successful. There are other personal reasons like discipline and, proper insight, proper perspective, that all kind of contribute, into, that, and how that could have been lessened. But nonetheless, that was the case. And then being slowed down with the experiences of, the past year has allowed me the space to slow down a bit, to be able to catch up to myself and the ramifications of some of the mindless actions that were happening being an autopilot. And what that did was took me to a place of feeling bad for myself. I can't believe that that's what I was putting out when this is what I intended. So again, a place of depression, realizing that not only have you, been in the wrong world, you've been miscommunicating, you've been operating from lower aspects of you that you didn't even realize were wounded spaces out of fear, insecurity, a place of lack. So again, it made me feel bad on how I limited my own self. It made me feel bad how I had disconnected parts of me because I didn't recognize them. It made me feel bad on how unaware of myself I really was when I'd always thought I knew so much. And again, it does not negate what I have been given. But I realized that, again, in being an autopilot, always having something to work for, it didn't free me to build relationships. And again, it might have just been why I kept so busy, because I felt so awkward in relationships. It felt more comfortable for me to keep going than to kind of uncover depth with people. Which is why, I know this. Can't you just be happy with this book, So that's always been my issue. It's always been what has kept me on the side to be able to, study. And I would use those things that I would study to try to come get my way back into social circles, not knowing how to navigate once I got there. So that summarizes my experience with adulting pretty accurately. So I say all of that to say it's very easy for us to get caught in that cycle. Most women who have found themselves as single parents with traumatic pasts, that's what we have found ourselves in. That's the world, this isolated world, not knowing how to properly handle life, relationships, decision making, and those are all things that I have become aware of that I'm working to strengthen. But it's like a labyrinth. I think I have it down, and then I get another trigger to work through. And again, I'm being gentle with myself. But as I awaken more and more to the experience, I do recognize my external reality and how, how things are not aligned. And that's still what I am working to do. So I'm very excited about the progress that I've made and, the plan that I have laid for myself for my next phase of life. I've been out of my transient situation for about 2 months now, and things are coming into a much greater clarity and balance. So that's an update for those of you who were interested in how things are going. I have my days where the reality is way more heavy, but my gift is to see the bright side. My gift is integrity, always kind of being honest with myself and owning up to where I have misjudged. So coming from this spectrum of anxiety and depression, and I know many people are wondering, how the hell do you get from there to interdimensional reality? And it came pretty smooth. When you are reflecting over, your actions in the past and experiences, this relative thing of determining location or dimension is based on other people. You have to use something to gauge something else by in order to give a measure of it. And in exploring my experiences while in Indianapolis, it was shown to me how, as I'm waking up to being my goddess self, a divine being, how this is what's always surrounded you. This is what's always surrounded you. And they've always come alongside of you to help elevate you. And because of your unhealed parts, you've never been able to fully engage the relationship. Lots of reasons that I've explored in my personal world as to why that was. A lot of it, again, fear-based, insecurity-based, a flawed perception of reality. I would get into relationships and that would kind of end my entire world. I thought it was the end-all, be-all. Again, a flaw in thinking. I didn't know how to properly maintain friendships. It stems from childhood traumas involving friends and bullying. Not recognizing the worth of people, or being better at business than personal relationships. That comes from an inability to fully account for myself, my own identity. So again, lack of self-awareness. So again, becoming accountable to this space that I've created, and then recognizing that you've left yourself behind. You have created this situation where you're not prepared to receive what you are learning you are worth. And what you've done is hinder those who invested in you some type of help. So again, I stay out of that place of blaming myself for what I didn't know, because that is that depressive state. But again, my way to heal that in myself and in the external is to share. And that's where that third piece of my morning journaling came in, that communicating. So I'm at 16 minutes, and that was the bulk of this morning's talk with myself. I am totally going to make another video that's going to explore this interdimensional reality concept more, because it's the stuff of Einstein, people. It's string theory, it's relative physics. But my experience into it has not been logical or numbers based or a math problem. It's been from watching this unfolding as I learn, as I choose and make choices for myself that are better than what I've known. It explains why in the third dimension we have such a fascination with aliens. It brings more clarity to, what geometry tells you is the 3 or 4 dimensions, length, width, height, depth. I totally equate depth, or the 4th dimension, with the dream space, which has been, again, one of the things that has increased during this experience. I've been able to recognize and realize what soul family and soul tribe is through, people who have helped me in my dream space. So again, another story for another time. Today, I woke thinking about what it meant to protect Black women. This was spurred after having conversations in the past few days with women who have kind of put that as the forefront on my mind. And even prior to the last few days, it came up in a conversation with another girlfriend. And a part of my accountability to myself and to the communities that I still have any attachments to is to share my insights so that they can create the space for healing to happen. And I always thought that, again, I've always thought that I was working in one direction and find out that I was working in the other direction. So as a leader, it is very important for me to go back and make some clarity. You protect Black women by being for them who you needed. I am just now at a place of sitting with myself to acknowledge wounds that were allowing me to run on autopilot, to recognize that there are things that I need. There were things that I needed from people in my life that I didn't have the courage to ask for or acknowledge. And again, that's a part of me learning my voice. But I recognize that I have had several opportunities to be a role model or a guide. And because I was so insecure in myself and I was in such a broken space, I was not able to be who I needed to be. And one of the things that I would always talk about and get upset with, like the world with, is like, why am I always the youngest person in the room with the most sense? And I found myself now being at the opposite end of that, where you've had these beautiful young ladies who you could have given so much to, but because you weren't in your wisdom, you pretty much did what the women in your family did to you. You didn't see their value. You didn't have the time. You had something else to do. You were busy. You didn't know how to address the situation. So many flaws of self that kept you from being who you needed to be. So that's been my biggest awareness. And again, it's been the thing that has been the most detrimental, having so many unhealed mother wounds. Coming from a place that you don't perceive as safe. In my experience, meant that the things that were missing were the things that would have kept me protected. So growing up in a household of women and a mostly extended family full of women, it made me think that the thing that would have protected these abused women, these women that I considered as weak, was a man. And this was the thinking that I had. So again, I think it's important we recognize how that kind of ripples out culturally in our society as a whole. The comparative story that kind of ran with that was, when a man is, who's in a monogamous relationship is unfaithful to the terms of that relationship. Typically, we see promoted the woman going against the other woman, which is a form of, again, abuse against self, self-hate. So I'm recognizing where I had to take on, where I took on overly masculine roles, thinking that I'd always have to protect, thinking that I always had to provide, thinking that I always had to be the strongest. And this is my This is my birth family that I'm speaking of. And it's almost mirrored this experience with soul family, where the only thing hanging me and connecting me on to the rest of the family is a mother figure. This mirrors my real life in every way. So, again, acknowledging all the unhealed spaces, loving myself enough to create the space to have a sense of clarity, to be able to make the best choices possible, to be able to be still and feel safe, and give my children those things that I didn't have, while simultaneously sharing with, again, this externalized family that I'm just coming to realize. It's been a hard awakening, a very hard awakening. And again, I still haven't made an enemy in it, and I do pride myself in that, because I've always known of the interconnectedness of all things. I just didn't know where I played into it, which again has put me in this position of, of having to face my fear while still having to be grounded in the reality that I have created dangerous situations for myself. And again, I still only came to that awareness through a panic from a vision I saw where someone else that I loved was being hurt. So again, I'm learning this inward experience through outward things that buffer it. And it's so much love that I have not shown to my soul family, that I have left us open for invasion. I left myself open to be invaded. And again, protecting Black women looks like recognizing that I am all of these Black women, and that, as my yesterday's journaling opened up to me, sharing is important, communicating is important. I'm just now coming to that awareness after thinking that, some really poor things about myself. Internalizing the times that people didn't want to hear me. So again, realizing that I've set myself into a place where I could jeopardize my own heaven because I haven't spoken up for it. I sacrificed a future because I didn't recognize myself to be able to recognize the ancestors and the guides that had actually come and gotten my ass, or tried to, and I still didn't see them for who they were. So protecting Black women looks like reminding them to know yourself, know how divine you are. You are divine. You are strong enough to lead a war and to run enterprises and empires, but you are delicate enough to be kept and to be protected, and you are worthy of that. I wish someone would have told me to be whole before you want to be interdependent. Master yourself. Pull out all of your richness and stand on it confidently. I wish someone would have told me that I didn't need someone else to make my dreams come true. I wish someone would have told me that the world is literally inside of my belly, and that all I needed to do to pull it out was to trust in myself, believe in myself, and be disciplined. I wish someone would have told me that make no other God outside of you meant just what it said, and to trust my vision of God. Trust those things that you are told inwardly. I wish someone would have told me that gut feeling every time I laid down in a place that I shouldn't have laid down was my divine masculine telling me that he ain't worth it. I wish I would have had the discipline to stick with the visions that I was given at 18, at 21, at 24. Each vision that I was given that would have drastically changed my life, as I look on hindsight, I used that creative energy that was put in me for it to create a child. That's how powerful we are. You can build anything. I wish someone would have taught me my power before I got into such a situation where my experiences outside of me forced me into a position where I had to face death, where I may have killed off some of the most important parts of myself. Protecting Black women looks like forgiving all the times that I blamed the victim. Because that's essentially what I did when I judged people and my insecurity. In my small-mindedness of how the world should be and how women should carry themselves, I was extremely judgmental and sensitive to certain types of energy, and then I would separate myself from them, not recognizing that I was that age, that I did the same things, that I tried those hats on, and I had to grow through them. And again, because you are uncomfortable with your femininity, because you've always had to be in a role of defense, of making the way. And again, come to find out you are having a hard time doing this for your own life. So again, you thought this was your job to do with your whole family. Interesting. But again, I am coming to focusing on me and redirecting the energy. It has me in such an optimistic place with, what I can build with my life now. Realizing again the nature of your birth family and the nature of your soul family. The two different things. There's so many perspectives that I can share this experience that I've gone through the past year from. Even astrologically, the parts of me that I feel like I've externalized as I heal the family issues and release those parts, the relationships with those people seem to get better. It shifts my external relationships as I come to more and more peace in my home and in my personal world and my own blood family. And I just think that's the most profound thing. So protecting Black women is reminding them to protect themselves. And the best way to protect themselves is to know they are themselves and their power and their potential. And again, that's been what's been merit to me for a very long time. I'm surrounded by amazing people. And instead of it inspiring me into my greatness, it would always trigger me in an insecurity. Oh, you have to do more. Oh, is that how it's done? Again, disregarding my inward world. So the balance that I'm learning now of trusting the things that were always communicating, that were always there with me. It's interesting. I don't know where our relationship stands, but I have the most clarity with it, So I'm not going to talk much longer. That was what was on my heart to share. And this whole saving Black women thing comes as I realize that, we are, I have to speak up for myself. So I thank the ancestors and the guides who have come to me physically to help me become aware of my inner world. I am having experiences of heart awakening that this video is coming forth from. And from this space, it's hard to be fearful. I've come to a point in this journey where, 4 or 5 months ago, the video was Perceiving Soul Loss, where I am still in the experience. But I realized that I have to keep moving. I still have things that I want to share. I still have things that I would like to do. People that I want to build things with. Healing that I want to see mastered. So I definitely keep moving. And that's the advice, again, that I will give to all the aspects of myself. Never stop growing. Never stop learning. Never stop being thirsty for those things. If you have to chase something, let those be the things to chase. What will I learn today? Who will I share with today? Well, I hope I've shared something that sparked you to be your best self, your greatest self, steady. I hope that you take the time to like this video, subscribe to the channel so that you can get my next update in this journey of, my spiritual awakening. So until next time, peace and blessings, cousin.